Shabbat Shalom. I was once in a different synagogue, and in the synagogue there were two members who'd been there for many years who did not like each other very much. Happens every now and then. But they were both very popular in their own right and had groups of friends. They had opposing political views. And over the many years of being in the community, they had different feuds and little disagreements about shul matters. But for whatever reason, it came to a point where one of them decided that the other one was beyond the pale and was going to make them feel unwelcome. And the other one did not know why, but reciprocated. And suddenly, all those not so nice thoughts that had been in the background started to surface and started to talk about each other and their spouses and even their children. And it got bad very quickly, and the worst came out. This kind of a situation is really part of what Tisha B'Av is about, right? Tisha B'Av is about, in this Shabbat Chazon, it's about when the worst of human behavior starts to come out. And what all the prophets talk about when we read in these last 3 weeks, but also many other times a year, what are their prophecies and sad lamentations about and beautiful poetry as we know they have? It's all about when humans let their negative side come out. And suddenly people who are good people lose their self-control. And not the highest comes out, not their best moral. And they think they're defending themselves, but they're who's attacking, who started, who knows where it begins. And so the lamentation is about the heartbreak of witnessing these situations happening and how they open the doors to people's lives to, God forbid, be destroyed, and communities and even nations. And that's how you lose God's dwelling place among you, because the prophets are saying, God says, how can I dwell among you when you're acting senselessly, when you're not thinking, when you're losing it? How can I dwell among you? And that's what the prophets say again and again and again. And for the rabbis, it was even more an important question. We have it in this story in the Talmud that we will be talking about next Wednesday night for Tisha B'Av, of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. In the story of these two people, one of them was invited to the party by mistake. It was really the other one, Bar Kamsa, who should have been at the party. But Kamsa turns out, and the host is actually an enemy of his. When the host realizes he's invited the wrong person, he starts to tell him, you have to leave the party. And he says, no, you're going to be shaming me in front of all these people. But he doesn't listen, and he throws him out of the party, and he's publicly shamed. And the man feels so bad that it happened in front of all of the who and who's of Jerusalem, that he goes to the Roman authorities and starts to give up his fellows and tell the Romans about the plans of what's about to happen. And so it's about our propensity as human beings, when we feel wronged or hurt, or we think our loved ones have been wronged and hurt, to stop seeing the other as human, and then we do things we later regret. And all the negativity that all of us have is suddenly out in the open, and the words and actions spiral out of control, recourse. We've all seen it happen. And so maybe part of the message of Tisha B'Av is we can't always stop the Romans from being the Romans. And we can't always stop the Babylonians from being the Babylonians. And unfortunately, we often can't stop the Spanish Inquisitions when they happen. But what we can do is try not to let that same kind of behavior and evil, that lesser side of humanity, come up within each one of us. Sometimes it's just an everyday interaction, and sometimes it's in much greater activities of mankind, the epic battles. And no, the other side is we have to strive to love our fellow, despite all those differences. And we can't let all those hurts that we each have turn us into an even greater violence. Sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and let it see it and understand this is just part of the brokenness of the world and the brokenness that we each carry within us. And for at least a few weeks a year to look at humanity and acknowledge this side of all of us, is the vision of this Shabbat of vision, and not the rose-colored glasses that we sometimes bring. But then from this place of seeing the human condition, we also start to see the unbelievable power and beauty of small human acts to make it better and to heal. So in the situation I mentioned of the two people, in the end, even though that there were two circles of friends, there was many overlap, and somehow it was organized to have them become friendly. In the end, they were able to bridge the distance, and they were able to come to an understanding and to find mutual respect again. And it's so easy to lose control, but part of the message is that every time, even once, we stop that spiral, even within our own being, then that deed is a deed that heals the world and fills the human beings around us with wisdom, with hope, and with the immeasurable, incredible, infinite power of love. Shabbat Shalom.